The Fantasy Edge with Richard Savill and Dennis Sosic.
Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Edge. I am Richard Savill of FantasySixpack.net. And joining me shortly, Davis Peng, also of FantasySixpack.net. Dennis is off this week. Well, we are going to get into week 13 and all the news since the Sunday action. And, well, here we go with the worst time for injuries for this week. And taking a bit of a tumble on some big names. Of course, the biggest one being Dalvin Cook, and we'll get into that in a second before I reintroduce a co-host that's been filling in for Dennis. Dennis is stuck at the airport. Wasn't able to get for the podcast. But Davis, how you doing, man?
I'm good today, man. I'm stoked to hop on the show once again. You know, anytime Dennis steps out, I'm popping in.
Yeah, no, that's great. Always love to have you. You always have interesting takes on stuff. But our first take has to be, of course, I just mentioned Dalvin Cook. The MRI showed that he showed a torn labrum, a separated shoulder. It's not considered season-ending, but we don't really have a time frame. But I read somewhere that Cook could return as soon as week 15, which would be the Vikings and the Bears. I think that might be a little optimistic, considering now that he's got two torn labrums in each shoulder. So don't know when he'll be back, but we do know that he won't be back probably for this week.
I think he's done for the season, honestly. Since the Vikings dropped the game, their playoff hopes are very slim, really slim right now. They'd be better off to rest him. Like, what are you going to play him with? If by week 15, and let's say they drop another loss, like, what happened?
Yeah, well, I haven't got a real handle on his, on the rest of the season here. I haven't got, who are the Rams got, the Vikings got coming up? They have, Detroit, which is, of course, the next one. Then Pittsburgh, Chicago, Rams, Green Bay. And Green Bay is week 17, which is your fantasy. So, at Green Bay, but, kind of tough for, but they got Chicago also if they're looking at playoffs, and I know what you mean about, that's one thing you like about your team is your fantasy players. You like them on competitive teams that are still in the playoff chase.
They're 5-6. Even if they pull out wins, do we expect the Packers to drop a bunch of games?
No, but for wild card considerations.
Yeah. So, they're 5-6. The Bears have Dalton back. There's a chance, I think they will beat those two teams, but the Steelers, could beat them for all we know. And then they still got to go through the Packers again, which, they did it once and they got the Rams. It's not an easy schedule. So I think by the time they figure out if he's coming back or not, it might be too late.
The Vikings are actually the 7th seed still. So they're 5-6, and they're actually technically the 7th seed. So they're right in there in the mix. But there's the Falcons and Saints are also at 5-6, but they're not that great. Falcons.
The Falcons are terrible.
Falcons in the chase. It's hard to believe. Eagles and Panthers still in the chase. They're 5-7 each, because they're one game ahead.
I'm a little surprised to see the Vikings are only 5-6. I felt like they were playing better. They had that rough beginning, but other than that, they've been pretty steady.
Yeah. It's a bad thing. Obviously, we're looking at now in our waiver rankings. I don't know why this is the Fantasy Pros waiver rankings for week 13. They didn't include Alexander Madison, and that might be the fact that Alexander Madison is already owned 51% in Yahoo, so that's probably maybe why they hadn't put Madison in there. But I think it's a no-brainer that you spend the rest of whatever fab you got left on trying to get him if he's out there. So kind of obvious. Let's see who we got. I'm going to save this other news since he's somebody that we're going to discuss a little bit later on, but I'll move on to Christian McCaffrey. Ankle injury, x-ray negative, questionable for 13. It didn't look too serious. The only problem with Christian McCaffrey is he got vultured again by you-know-who. And, this is one of the reasons, Christian McCaffrey was what was he 1.01 in the draft, and he's I would say it's not just the injuries, but he's not lived up to the top rank.
I think he has and he hasn't. The games he's in, he's always double-digit relevant. I know people are a little spoiled these days with like 20 pointers, but I know even in half PPR to PPR, like getting 13 to 15 because he was very solid. That was a game winning. That's a season-winning player. I think CMC has lived up to that portion of it. Like if he's on the field, he gets you 15 points, 20 points. That kind of ridiculousness. But in the sense of him taking injuries, that is something that him and Dalvin Cook, we came into this, and Alvin Kamara even, those three coming into the season, that was always a read the fine print on these. These guys have been injured before. They get injured.
Yeah.
CMC's first real injury was last season, but that kind of workload kind of just brings on the injuries anyway. Like there's not many players in history that can take on the kind of workload that CMC took in 19 and do it every year, right? Derrick Henry's the only other one, Adrian Peterson, at least recent years, and they both broke down.
Yeah.
So
somebody just put Mike LaPlante, who's one of the gang in F6P, put up a meme from Field Yates that the top four players that you just mentioned. Well, you didn't mention Henry, but he's in there as well.
Was it Derrick Henry? Yeah. Oh, yeah, but not for injury proneness, but he has a crazy workload.
Yeah, he has a crazy workload. Yeah, he's not injury prone, but he's on IR, but, but it's always the problem in fantasy is healthy running backs this time of the season.
You heard that theory is that you never draft the consensus 101 in any position. They never pan out.
Well, yeah, the only guy, I guess, is Travis Kelce, if you're talking.
Yeah, and even then, he's only been the 101 the last, 2 or 3 years. Before that, it used to be Gronk, and you know how that story goes.
Yeah, Gronk, yeah, that's true. Moving right along here, finish up the news of injuries. Deebo Samuel, Rappaport reports Deebo Samuel is expected to miss a little time. I love Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel's a great player. I'd love him to be on my fantasy team, and he's not.
I'd love him to be on my real life team. He is amazing. I'm actually a major fan of him.
I am too.
His rookie in his second year. That man is only like 6 flat on height, but he plays like he's 6'4", 6'5", 250 pounds. He will run a man over. It is gross for his size.
Why can't Laviska Shenault be like that? He is that same kind of guy. Laviska Shenault should be like Deebo, and he's so misused in that offense on the Jaguars. Because I like Laviska Shenault. He's just like Deebo Samuel, but he's not being properly used that way. They've got a good player on their team, and I don't know. I don't know what you think of Laviska Shenault, but I think he should be. I think he should be like that.
I think Laviska has the possibility. I think one thing we've learned in fantasy, and if you ever need a reminder, this year is a very good version of that. We do not know what the true capability of any player is until they're in the right. Cordell Patterson is a good version of that right now. I mentioned Rashard Matthews as a guy like that before. I mean, Robert Woods, when he was on the Bills, was completely waved off by the fantasy world.
Very true.
You don't know what they do until they get to the right system.
That's right.
So, I mean, physically talented, sure. Hands, so at times, boneheaded mistakes right now, yeah, of course. But who knows? Like, who knows what happens 2 years from or 3 years from? I mean, for a while, people thought Alan Hearns was the next big thing, and I remember laughing because I was like, Alan Hearns. Oh yeah,
Alan Hearns, yeah.
So who really knows? Kenny Galladay's fallen off the past few years, and look at Sterling Shepard stepping up. So I would like to. I'm not gonna say he can't. Do I like him right now? No, because I just don't like Jacksonville Jaguars. But if he ends up on a Patriots team in the future, why not? He ends up on Kyle Shanahan's team in the future, maybe why not? That kind of situations can always happen. But on Urban Meyer's team, I don't like him.
Finally, more to the news off the injury front is Baker Mayfield. Kevin Stefanski described his team's performance on Sunday night as very, very disappointing and described himself as frustrated with his offense, but he insisted that Baker Mayfield will remain the starting quarterback. And Baker is playing through injuries. He's doing the Ben Roethlisberger dance here, and it's sort of affecting the team. I don't know all the ailments that Baker's going through right now, but I think it's definitely, I don't know, Jarvis Landry had a good game last game, but I don't know.
I love Jarvis. That's a guy I love more than most people ever love a receiver.
Yeah, I kind of liked him. He was on a couple of seasons. He was, and a couple of seasons ago he was on what's that show where they go do the training camp thing?
Oh, Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Yeah, he was hilarious in Hard Knocks. He's a very funny guy too.
He's a team leader. He's a very motivated team leader.
Yeah, he is.
He's never meant to be a 1A, but he's such a solid 2. I think if he ends up on a real team in the future, as long as he's under his 30s, I think he could always come back to fantasy relevance. I know he's technically fantasy relevant now, but is he at the same time? Is he? You know what I mean?
I don't know. But let's focus on Baker.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Baker?
I wrote an article about him in a preseason, and I have a big hate. He's coming as QB 20 on the season. I do. I actually think and I will say, I was never that guy when he had his rookie. Okay, I was on that bandwagon too after his rookie year. I was like, this guy's good. He has potential. He's getting Odell Beckham. He's getting Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, all these things, right? All this hype.
Yeah.
But that was his rookie year. What has he done since? I mean, he realistically should be a QB3 in every format. He has 3 or 4 big games, and then he has QB3 numbers all season, or even worse. Yeah. He has worse than backups. There's Taylor Heineke came in and is killing him. Cam Newton came in and killed him. So yeah. I don't know. I rank him as low as I can get.
I like his commercials.
I hate his commercials. I think that's part of why he sucks. He's so marketable, but that's not a good thing.
No, it's not. No, I know. He is a marketable, yeah, you're right about that. But he does better commercials than, Mahomes does. Mahomes is sort of sharing with Rodgers and what is it? You can't even remember the ads are so good, you can't even remember who does them anyways. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, you're right about him. He's a bit overhyped when he came into it. I don't know. He plays hard. I will say that for him.
I mean, does he play hard or does he just look like he has energy, right? I feel like the same way I look at him is the same way I looked at Johnny Manziel. When they're on the field, you can feel their competitiveness. You can feel these guys are competitive when they're in the game. But outside of the game, I don't know what they do. Who knows? I don't think Baker's like a party animal, but every time I see something off the field, it's him dancing or talking presses or commercials. You never hear about how his teammates, he's doing the extra hours, that kind of training. And it doesn't show. I mean, if he is, it's not showing. But I feel like on the field, they have energy. So it looks like they're just competitive athletes, but he's a first overall, man. He can't even make basic throws or basic reads.
No, he hasn't been great. But I don't know, using his injuries as an excuse, but that won't last. Okay, time for.
Well, we're moving on now to the top.
Yes, it's time to see who's moving on up for the stock, and I think for me it's Elijah Mitchell, and I'm actually kind of happy because the Elijah Mitchell, it used to kind of be on San Francisco, you really couldn't tell there wasn't really a bell cow, and I think they finally got a lead back in the backfield who is the guy, and he's the guy, and who's second in the pecking order there. It's a committee, but it's a normal committee now. It didn't used to be. And Elijah Mitchell, a great weekend against the Vikings, and so he just to say what he got in the to recap what he had. What did he get? I'm going to put in the half PPR, not the standard. He said 133 yards, his fourth 100-yard game. Plus 35 yards receiving, touchdown, 27 carries. Gotta like it. Definitely. And that's of course, he missed the game against Jacksonville, but he had 27 carries before that against the Rams. And, yeah, you gotta like that, and he ends up currently fourth, pending the outcome of today's game, fourth RB for the week. Yeah, good stuff coming from Elijah Mitchell. Thoughts on him?
You might have been cutting out a little bit, but I'm pretty sure we have the same opinion. Like that, the fact that we like him, we both like him. He's a rising up player. He made my buy high targets last week, even though he didn't play against Jackson. And it was because of how ineffective Jeff Wilson Jr. was and Trey Sermon was, and that they relied on Deebo Samuel to run the ball 8 times. And sure, Deebo Samuel ran the ball 5 times this time for the efficient level that he did, but Elijah Mitchell still had 98 yards and touchdown. And he was averaging 5 yards a carry, I believe, at one point. Maybe not towards the end of the game, but at one point he was averaging 5 yards a carry. Yeah, it's a perfect player moving on up. And trade deadlines, I know it's either this week, in some leagues it's last week. If you have the opportunity to grab the guy, go grab him. People are undervaluing this man. I undervalued him as a pickup in fantasy waiver wires. I regret it. He's good.
Yeah, he's definitely, I had him as a moving on, in my rest of season article, I already featured him once, earlier in the season, and someone laughed at it, but, there's lots of players who, move on up every week, so I gotta feature somebody, so anyways.
So did that guy come back and apologize?
No, they never do.
I kid, but it's sad, but and that's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
We don't take it personally because it is out of left field, right? At times.
No, never take it seriously. What do you got for moving on up?
I am going to feel gross saying this, but it's Russell. I feel utterly gross, but for me,
that is kind of a dirty pick.
There is no Ridley, okay? Gage in the last 4 games he's played has gotten 8, 3, 8, 7. Those are respectable target numbers, even from a poor Matt Ryan. He has 1 goose egg, from his last 4 games. But if you look at his actual last 5, it's 15 points, 10 points, 0, 8, 15. It's not the worst. Cordell Patterson makes people go after him. This is half PPR trap. I'm not even going off full PPR. If you're full, he gets 6 for 62. You're getting 12 points. And this is our guy you can pick off the waiver. He's at 17% rostered. So Cordell Patterson's back. He makes people go after him. Kyle Pitts is a threat, physically, maybe not actually fantasy. So Russell Gage is just gonna get these little cheapies. Like, against bad defenses, at least secondaries, why not? He's going against Tampa. He got 5 catches. Sure, they were for no yardage, but 5 catches can mean almost anything, right? Like, if you had a player that on a regular basis got 5 to 6 catches a week, you're starting him. Even at least in your flex, or at least he's in your depth chart. Because Calvin Ridley right now, as much as I thought he would come back by this point, or next week or whatever, he hasn't. So
absolutely no news on him.
0. And this does not mean he's done with football. Sucks because it's a contract year, but he can always get extended. But the point is Russell Gage is here. He's not owned in 82% of leagues in Yahoo. If you're hurting, you lost Deebo Samuel, you lost all these other guys, and you need a depth stash going into the end of the season. And as we already said, the Falcons are technically in a playoff hunt. They get Tampa, Carolina, San Francisco, Detroit, which are all solid games to have shootouts at, possibly besides maybe Carolina, and then Buffalo. That's the only downside. You get Buffalo week 17. But if you got to week 17, then you just figure something else out.
That's right. I'm just looking at his stats here, and you're absolutely right. The target share is going up, but for the Dallas game. I mean, it's over 5 targets, which is kind of like for me, over 5 targets, 6 and above is sort of like, okay, you're in the, you're getting noticed.
You're rosterable.
Yeah, you're rosterable. You're not a flyer if you're getting more than 5 targets a game.
I mean, it's it. 6, 8, 3, 8, 7. I mean, what else can you ask for from a guy that's not like at this point where we're at the end of the season? Come grab this guy. He's moving on up. Minus a touchdown, even give him 12 points. Full PPR. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good too. I think we got our next.
Danger.
Yes. That's all. That's the only clip I've got. I mean, for the panic button. For me, panic button is any Giants receiver. You just don't know who's going to be injured. Kadarius Toney's down again. I don't know what it is about the Giants. It just cannot keep anyone healthy. And, and any given week, and you already mentioned Kenny Galladay, a bit when we were talking about somebody else there. And so I don't know what it is about the Giants this year. A little bit to do with the quarterbacking, I will say. I mean, Daniel Jones, I have to say, I think is kind of like, I think on the bubble, I think the Giants are going to be shopping again for a quarterback. If they
don't, it would be the most Giants move ever.
If they don't shop for another quarterback, it would be.
Yeah, it'd be the most Giants moves they could ever have done.
But it'd be stupid to stick with Jones. Jones is backup material. We can see that now. We can see he's a backup quarterback, and I don't even think he'd be a good backup quarterback either.
I don't think. They say that the point of backup QBs is to keep a game managed. Daniel Jones cannot manage it.
No.
He has no capability of managing a game. They'd be better off with like Dwayne Haskins, who's kind of shown in preseason that he can manage a game. Marcus Mariota, bring back Alex Smith at this point. Like, Daniel Jones is not the guy. And I really rooted for him, although
I did too, but he continues to make the same mistakes he made as a rookie, and
I think he's even worse than his rookie year, honestly, at this point.
Yeah. Well, he carries the ball loose, gets a lot of fumbles, turns the ball over a lot. It's not looking great. I mean, it's terrible. So, but I don't know about you, how you feel about the Giants receivers right now, but I really have no trust. And the sad part is about it is that I think they've got a lot of talented receivers there.
Yes, that actually is the sad part. One of my talking points will be later about one of them.
Right.
It'll be more about Sterling Shepard. I still think decent for now. We'll go over it during waiver wire discussions. But yeah, I think Tony, Golladay, Shepard, Slayton, all those guys at any moment with the right quarterback could be fantasy relevant. Let's be realistic. They all could be.
Yeah. I mean, even Ross, we were talking about guys being in the right system before we started the podcast. When we were sort of warming up before the podcast, we were talking about guys like Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, exactly. John Ross could be a guy that if he was in the right system, he'd be legitimate. I think John Ross has one of the funniest stats. I don't want to get over it, but basically he's caught like 33% of his catches are like touchdowns at one point. It was just really, really stupid. It was a really ridiculous stat that if you actually look at his career, you could see the stat at one point be that. I'm not going to go over it too much.
But yeah, okay. So anyways, Giants receivers for me are just, if you own them, they're pretty much, I don't know, droppable. Really. Who are you concerned about?
I'm a little bit worried about Myles Gaskin right now. I know he had the most of the workload. He did well, got points, he got a touchdown, all that greatness. But I'm worried that Lindsey came in too good first. And I'm not going to say it was an amazing run, but if you look at Myles Gaskin's stat against the Panthers, or even the last, I would say, 5 games, he averages less than 4 yards a carry. Actually, if anything, he averages 3, 1.7, 2.2, 3.9, and 3.1.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of attempts. He had 16 rushing attempts, 23 rushing attempts, like 14 rushing attempts, and they're all under 50 yards besides one game. So Myles Gaskin makes this weird portion for me because, he had 2 touchdowns.
It's the touchdowns where he's getting, he's got 7 on the season.
And, is that even including his receiving? I don't think it even includes his receiving time. So he has 2, 3. Nope, you're right. It's 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's 7. Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 of his rushing touchdowns out of his 3 came in against Carolina, where they completely gave the Dolphins the ball. So, and Lindsey, although hasn't been amazing all season, we all can chalk this up to Houston being the worst team in the league right now, or one of the worst teams. Lindsey came out with a good pass block, and he's actually getting a ton of praise for a block that basically saved to his life. If he continues to pass block well,
I wasn't even aware that the Dolphins picked him up.
Yeah, I picked him up waiver last week after he got cut. They picked him up immediately. So, you factor that he's already a decent pass blocker. You already factor in, he's actually really not that great, but he's coming out here to win a job. And the best opportunity he ever has to do it is against another undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
So, he made a good pass blocking and save. He's already doing better yards per average or equal to Myles Gaskin up the middle, which Gaskin do. So that scares me. It scares me a ton if I'm a Gaskin manager. Like I want to pick up Lindsey and hope that.
Still though, Davis,
doesn't do it.
Still, I mean, against a tough matchup like Carolina, he still ended up 8th RB finish for the week and 9th the previous week. So
but the yardage isn't there.
The yardage, you're right about the yardage. It isn't there. He hasn't had one single 100-yard game. That is true.
He's not good up the middle. And he averaged, and Lindsey had 12 rushing attempts. Sure, some of those could have came during the end of the game, but 12 for 42, that means that's put him at 3.5 yards per carry. Gaskin had 3.1. And that's a guy that just got to your team. A guy that just came to your team outperformed in front of everybody. So it is a thing that does scare me a little bit. If you can trade Gaskin, I would.
If there's time.
Yes, if your league is still giving you that trade deadline this week, I would move him and get something else. Cash on those 2 touchdowns. Maybe Elijah Mitchell is up for sale. Somebody's sitting there going, oh man, the 49ers always share their running back. Okay, here's Gaskin.
I don't know, Elijah
here's
Mitchell.
Gaskin and a friend, These guys, all they do is look at scores.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell will be a tough sell because you're selling high there. You're selling
both
high
selling
yeah, I guess you are selling both high, but yeah, because
oh man, Elijah Mitchell's injury. Oh man, the 49ers. You never know who's the lead running back from week to week. The things we hear all season.
yeah.
I would.
Well, even though I just put in the confidence through my moving on up that he seems like the guy. Maybe a lot of people don't believe that still, but I believe it now. I believe that he's.
Oh, I do too. I don't think Miles Gaskin's the guy, but I would definitely try to make a move like trading Gaskin.
No, I've never. But I am with you. I've never been a Gaskin guy, but he has produced three out of the past 4 weeks. That's not too bad. I mean, the tough matchup against Baltimore.
Your season average is the floor of like 2 yards, 3 yards. So I would say that's my panic. I think Lindsey came in too well for a guy that got picked up midweek. That's kind of scary.
Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. I sort of disagree, but I see what you're coming at from. At least I see where you're coming from. But anyways, let's move right along into the waiver wire of Fantasy Pros, the early Fantasy Pros waiver wire. Now, I want to qualify this that Alexander Madison is not on the list because he's 51% owned by Yahoo probably. And so and I checked on the Fantasy Pros waiver ranker platform, and these guys would have, I definitely think the experts would have put Alexander Madison as RB1 if he was on the list for some reason. See, when you get on the Fantasy Pros ranking platform, you get a certain set of players on the waiver rankings to rank, and they didn't think to see it fit to put Alexander Madison on. But I also checked that I think, we'll do the wide receivers first this week. How's that? And the big list. And but they've got Kenny Golladay on, and he's owned by 59% in Yahoo. So I don't know what the rhyme or reason is for that. But anyways, these are the Fantasy Pros waiver wire rankings. The early picks. And right up at the top, we got Kendrick Bourne as the WR1 pick, and I like Bourne. I think maybe that was what we were talking about in our pre-podcast warm up, was Kendrick Bourne, about how he's rising to the occasion. I know you like him.
I do. I like him a lot as a 49er. I love that he was, I want to say, an undrafted free agent too, or a late rounder. A very unknown player, but when I used to watch him on the Niners, I was impressed with him. Mm-hmm. He came through when he came down. Kind of reminded me of Brandon Lloyd, I want to say, a former 49er, a guy that used to just kind of be there, but was there when you really needed him. Mm-hmm. And he got paid for it. He got paid for being over reliable. Like, kind of like, which is funny. It's a full on Patriots move, right? Like Chris Hogan, over reliable. Those kind of guys get paid and go to the Patriots. So yeah. We should have saw this coming, like, oh man.
I think you could say the same for Aguilar too, in a way.
Aguilar is kind of the opposite. Aguilar was never the over reliable. Aguilar was more like the Panthers. There was a receiver from the Panthers that went over there. He was good for just 1 year. I want to say Brandon LaFell. I want to say Aguilar reminds me of Brandon LaFell in the sense of that he kind of goes deep, kind of hopes to get lost in the backfield and takes it for the house. Never really broke 1,000 yards. We should have. I think as a fantasy community, we should have expected something from Kendrick Bourne. Maybe not full on fantasy relevancy like he is today, but it wouldn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. And I had that backwards. I betted on Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers.
I think Bourne right now is the better own over Myers.
Yeah. Because he gets touchdowns. He's making plays.
Yeah, and even, I dare I say, because he's getting touchdowns, and even Aguilar's getting touchdowns. And I will say Aguilar is catching better than he used to be. Maybe he's doing the tennis ball thing like what Deontay Johnson was doing.
Yeah.
Did you see that stat about Deontay Johnson, by the way? Did you?
Oh my God, that guy's wild. That guy is so good right now. Yeah, he's an every week starter. His stats are amazing.
Yeah, he's did the tennis ball things. He's had one drop compared to what I don't know, was it 20 drops last season, and now he's down to just one this year.
He's good. He's been playing so much better.
That kind of reminds me of Devonte Adams. He was like Devonte Adams used to have drop problems early.
You're right.
On.
Also, one of the reasons I didn't like him is I didn't think he could ever be a 1 when he had the opportunity to be a 1, and he did really poorly that year.
Mm-hmm.
It really shattered my faith in him being relevant. I kept chalking him up to the quote-unquote wide receiver 2 for Aaron Rodgers, which they never exist. So I had Devontae Adams pegged as that person on Jordy Nelson. Luckily, he panned out to be a really good player.
Yep, did the tennis ball reps.
Yeah, you gotta get those.
Gotta get your tennis ball reps, yeah. Who else do you like in the pros of the experts have put on the list
for the
here?
wide receiver section, I mean, I already talked about Russell Gage. He's at number 6. But I like Sterling Shepard. And I know when you obviously said that everyone on the Giants is talented.
Yeah.
I like Shepard for the same reasons why we like Bourne. The same reasons I'm talking about Russell Gage. It's if they're on the field, they're getting to.
Yeah.
If he's on the field, he's relevant. Shepard at one point was like wide receiver 6 on the season because he was just getting peppered. He was making plays. They weren't great plays by any means. He wasn't making people miss scoring 40 yards, but he was fighting for first down, right? As a football enthusiast, I think everybody is deep down, you respect that. So Sterling Shepard's the guy I think you can target if he ever returns, right? Put him in your IR roster, put him in your depth and hope that he makes it back. Because if and when he does, you might get some of the best solid flex play out of it. Because he was good. He's better than everybody. Well, maybe not necessarily better than his competition, but the scheme is meant for him instead of his. So yeah, so I'll go with.
Yeah, I know I'm down on the Giants receivers, but when they are on the field and when they're playing well, when they're on the field, that is.
If it's good.
Yeah, but just taking a look at one other name that kind of sticks out, and this is, I guess, they got him on here because he's coming back from injuries, is Devonte Parker of the Dolphins, and I'm just trying to look him up here on my rest of the season. I can't find Devonte Parker for some reason. Oh, there he is. There he is. I've got him as WR69 at the moment. I guess is he supposed to come back this week, I guess?
Allegedly. I mean, with Dolphins and injuries, Dolphins, for some reason, have racked up the most injury-prone team and put it together on one wide receiver roster giant.
All right.
And it sucks because Parker does get peppered at times, but it really depends. A lot of the targets we saw him get this season was with Jacoby Brissett, not necessarily with Tua.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be wary about how much we want to play Parker. Waddle's the guy. He was my buy high target last week.
Yeah.
I think he's unbuyable now.
Yeah, he's got the shoes right now for sure.
He has too many receptions. He's gonna set the rookie record for wide receiver receptions.
Yeah, he'll go high next year. He'll have a very robust ADP. It's
going to be ugly. So Devonte Parker's not a guy I would say is particularly someone I'm targeting. I will say if he's on the field, it's nice. If you're playing DFS, that's cool. But I don't know if the targets are going to be there. I think it's the Waddle and Gesicki.
Yeah, and I see they got Will Fuller on there too. So
I've never seen a man be gone so long for whatever. He has I think the injury is like a foot injury or a toe injury. Oh, it's a finger, and he just never came back.
Okay, let's just go do quick yes and no's for this. Well, we've done Kendrick Bourne. We talked about Kenny Galladay. Talked about Sterling Shepard. Talk about Devonte Parker. T.Y. Hilton, yes or no?
No, hell no.
No. Russell Gage, we talked about. Deshaun Jackson is a yes for me.
Yes.
Yep. Laviska Shenault. I'm just going to say yes because I like the player and I want him on my team. Even though I wouldn't start him, but
if you're in a deep league, yes. If you're in a deep league, 14-man plus, he does get receptions. He's all that's really left on the team. You know, if he's averaging 5 receptions consistently, then fine. That's points.
Marquez Velta, Scantling, if he's available, I doubt he is, but yes, definitely.
Yes.
Rondale Moore is a yes for me. He should be on your team.
Rondale Moore is a no for me.
Oh, right. How come?
I think for Moore, I need to see Kyler throw to him. I need to see DeAndre Hopkins on the field with him. He had one strong week, and that was it. His other past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 9 games, 10 games has been irrelevant.
Will Fuller, we just talked about, for both of us. Tre'Quan Smith is a no for me.
That's a no for me, too.
Josh Reynolds is a leaning no. Actually, even though he scored a touchdown on Thanksgiving, I'm still leaning no, but you can pick him up if you're interested. He's kind of in the spec ad sort of area for me.
I could see that. He's a spec ad, but he's definitely a no for me overall. I do not feel comfortable with him because it's the Lions. Who knows what's going on? And he got cut from a team that just paid him. That needs it's the team that needed receiver help got rid of him.
That's right, dumb. Nick Westbrook-Akeen, of course, a yes. The Titans are off this week, but yeah, if he's out there, Nick Westbrook-Akeen definitely add, yeah.
Yeah, is it? No, it's a no for me.
Oh, a no for Nick Westbrook.
I don't want anything to do with that team right now from the receiver perspective.
All right. Yeah, especially when both the running backs went over 100 yards. Do you believe it?
That was interesting.
Finally, on their list, they've got Alan Lazard. He's a no for me.
He's a hard no for me. I think after MVS and Cobb, what does Lazard do?
Yeah, exactly. So that wraps up the wide receivers. Where should we go next, Davis?
Let's get to the boring tight ends so we can get this one quick, and then we'll move on to the more fun guys. Quote.
Okay. They have Cole Kmet at the top. I don't know about that. You know what? On this list, I would put. I put Jack Doyle, actually. I'd rush out.
Yeah, he's in there, but he's at the bottom.
Yeah, I know, but I put him at the top. They got him at TE5. I think Jack Doyle, I know it's recency, and I know you're chasing points if you're going to pick him up, but I don't know, Doyle might be back. I mean, I haven't seen anything of Mo Alley Cox lately.
No, you're right. I actually agree with you on that. That Carson Wentz likes his tight end. Doyle fits the type of prospect, type of player that he wants, the possession tight end. Doyle fits that really well. Mo Alley Cox is a big body tight end that tries to play like a big receiver without the hands. So I think Doyle's the guy. I think he should be ranked a little bit higher than he is right now. He should not be 5. He should be at least 2 to 3, I think.
I absolutely agree. Even 1 for waiver grab. So Jack Doyle, we both prefer him at 1. Anybody else on this very short list of 6 players that you have any interest in?
I will say I kind of like Foster Moreau if Darren Waller stays out. Tyler Conklin, he's been on everyone's tight end ad. I'm not going to really speak about it too much, but he's a hit and miss back and forth. But Darren Waller likes whether it's Jared Cook, whether it's Darren Waller, whether it's the other guy that forgot his name. He starts off he had a really whatever season, but even he had fantasy relevance. So give me Foster Moreau if Darren Waller continues to stay out.
Yeah, I don't know let me just check the status of, see if I've got a status here of Darren Waller. Darren Waller, it says, news. Says he'll undergo an MRI, and I haven't heard anything about him yet. That was 3 days ago.
The guy I was talking about is Michael Rivera. And Clive Walford. Both those guys were pretty okay from game to game at times from Derek Carr.
Yeah,
this team is hurting on receivers. And Foster Moreau, chalk him up. He should already be picked up at this point of what Darren Waller being as questionable.
Oh, here's the details on the Waller injury. Darren Waller suffered a strained IT band in his knee. Sources tell Ian Rappaport whatever is an IT band is probably something to do with.
It's like your hamstring, I want to say.
It's in his
basically
knee.
It's pretty bad though. It's in your knee, legs.
But it appears Waller has escaped a serious injury. His status for week 13 remains
week to
up
week.
in the air.
So chalk up some Foster Moreau.
Yeah.
If he's week to week,
Sure.
time decisions kind of situation.
Yep.
Because we've seen it. Clive Walford. We've seen Michael Rivera. We've seen Jared Cook, Darren Waller. Derek Carr's going to target these guys.
Yeah. Let's do our quick yes/no for the rest. Cole Kmet is leaning no for me.
He's a yes for me. I love Andy Dalton. I like for this offense.
Tyler Conklin is a yes for me.
He is a no for me. He's matchup based.
Also touchdown dependent, but he's a yes for me based on that. Evan Ingram is leaning yes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you're just desperate because there's nothing else on the field.
And we talked about Foster Moreau and Jack Doyle. We're down to CJ Uzuma. A mild yes for me.
He's a no for me. The receptions and yardage aren't there. He's basically, you're hoping he catches a 3-yard pass. That's all he lives for at the point. He has no fancy relevancy in the last, I want to say 4 weeks. Yeah, last 4 weeks. He's a hard no. A leaning no. I like him though. I like him as a player. I like what he does for the Bengals. Not
Right. Okay. We'll save the best for last. So we'll go to the quarterbacks first, and we only have 5 on the list here. Basically, we could just basically talk about them really quickly. Tua Tagovailoa.
that's a yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely a yeah, and he might be. I was kind of concerned about him earlier in the season, but he's come back well. And, you mentioned Jacoby Brissett and Devonte Parker there and stuff like that. But Tua is definitely in command of that offense now. And really, and making a statement with the Dolphins. The Dolphins, big win against the Panthers. And it was just really, really good performance there by Tua. Really in command. If he's out there, yeah, I tend to agree about him. Pick him up.
For me with Tua, his passing attempts have gone above the 30s. He has high completion rates. So we all know that your completion rates can go anywhere. But we know for the Dolphins that they like to play safe. So everything they do is going to be a high completion target, right? Like a high chance of a target, a high chance of a completion per target. Mm-hmm. If Tua doesn't have Myles Gaskins to do the rushing touchdown, there's also a chance Myles Gaskin, who does most of his work as a receiving back, gets a receiving touchdown. You can add a 3 touchdown. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying to pick him up and start him right off the bat, but if you're just desperate and you're having a quarterback that's middle of the pack and they're facing the Patriots, yeah, I would start Tua over that quarterback. And I think that's where Tua fits for me. What do you think?
He's still kind of in the QB2 conversation, but he's growing.
Yeah, bottom end.
But he is growing. There's good growth going on there. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. Really,
I think that's fair. Like I said, I would. He's a streamer at best. Yeah. If your guy is facing the Patriots and it's not someone special like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I think you could play. Like if you had Big Ben or Tua and Big Ben was facing the Patriots, would you start Big Ben? You see what I'm saying? Like that's where I'm like, I think I'd rather start Tua against.
Yeah, I would. I would rather. Yeah, I like the mobility. Ben has no mobility. I don't like quarterbacks who have no mobility.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that just can't.
And that's what's hurting Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is just, you can see the mobility even on him with him. But I don't know. Ben comes out though. He bumbles along and he tries to do some mobility things to prove us wrong, but it's just not there. But
let's say, how about someone more fancy relevant? Let's say Derek Carr or Tua against Washington. Who would you rather start?
Tua. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tua.
That's the point I'm getting. That's exactly where he is. Like Derek Carr's been really good for fantasy.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's matchup. There's. You're kind of giving me examples with matchups, and I think that's where it is he's matchup based. Yes.
He's very matchup based, so he's not a hard pickup. But if you're desperate, there's a lot of bad QB play this season.
Let's move on to. Now you see, I disagree with it. I think Mac Jones should be ahead of Tyler Heineke. Taylor Heineke is a young young Joe Flacco.
Please no. I think Mac Jones is better than that.
Taylor Heineke, he's okay in a 2-quarterback league or Superflex maybe, but but you're not having him. You don't stream. I'm not streaming Taylor Heineke. He's playing tonight against the Seahawks.
I would rather start Taylor Heineke because I don't believe the Patriots play the safest football possible. Mm-hmm. Therefore, low amount of completions or kind of short passes. A lot of rushing touchdowns, which kills all of Mac Jones' upside. Mac Jones only had 1 3 TD game this entire season, as well as he's been playing. And
he's had only 1 300-yard game as well.
He only had two.
Oh, he's had 2. Okay.
Yeah, he just got one with the Titans. But
I stand corrected.
So, no, but yeah, you're not wrong. I actually thought he only had 1. He just got the second one with the Titans. And Heineke will play from behind. And I think that's where the upside is. This guy that can kind of run the ball for 40 yards, throw the ball for 350, throws, 2 picks. But because he had all these other yardage and 2 touchdowns, he'll do better than that. Because Mac Jones is averaging mostly 1 or 2 touchdowns a game. And it's not just 2, it's 1 or 2. So I can see why they ranked Heineke over. Just that team's going to play from behind. It's not efficient football like it is with the Patriots.
Well, I can see why they put him ahead, but I'd rather have Mac Jones than Taylor Heineke.
Oh, in real life all day, for sure.
Speaking of more Jones, we talked about Daniel Jones, his QB4. He's a no for me.
He's a hard no. I at this point don't even start a quarterback, and just assert dominance.
Yeah.
At that point, play Andy Dalton, play Jared Goff, somebody else. Daniels has been so bad. He's utterly bad. And he fumbles the ball. The other guys don't even fumble balls at least. So, like, you
No.
don't have a chance to go negative.
Well, the last guy does.
Oh, yes. The next guy.
Justin Fields, he's a no for me. I wish I could say yes because I think he has a lot of potential, but I don't think it's, we talk about Nagy and his system and Nagy. I don't think this is all on Nagy. I just don't think Justin Fields is really all that good.
He's not. I'm even surprised he's on this list.
Yeah, I am
don't know
too.
why Fantasy Pros has these last two guys on the list.
I don't know why either. You're right, and that's why we criticize him. That's why we go through there.
I honestly would have PJ Walker ahead of these last two guys.
Yes.
I'm not even being sarcastic here. This is a real thing. I'd rather have PJ Walker. I'd rather have Jared Goff. I'd rather have Andy Dalton. I would rather have
Goff.
if Geno Smith came back, I would rather have Geno Smith, right? Or if Marcus Mariota started over Derek Carr, I would have Marcus Mariota. These last two guys are not fantasy. Right now, Justin Fields has thrown more hits, and not even by one. He's thrown it by double.
Would you rather have Trevor Lawrence?
I would rather have Trevor Lawrence over both these guys.
What about Trevor Simeon?
I would rather have Trevor Simeon.
Really? Wow.
If you look at Trevor Simeon's numbers, in real life, it's a different story. Well, actually, no. Against Daniel Jones, yes, in real life. Against Justin Fields, not yet, too early. But here's the thing. Trevor Simeon, all the games he's played, it's been 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. The yardage is middle of the pack. It's 160 to 250, maybe 130. But his INTs are only 3.
Mm.
He only has 3 INTs. He has less INTs than Justin Fields by double the amount. I didn't even look at Daniel Jones' fumbles.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Trevor Simeon's playing efficient football. So even if it's junk numbers, I at least don't have to worry about going.
Mm.
I would rather play Trevor Simeon over Daniel Justin Fields right now in fantasy. The scheme that Sean Payton has is working for him.
Yeah. Well, we could go on all day about who would we rather have on quarterbacks, but we've got to move on to the running backs now. The good stuff.
Yeah.
And again, people, I will physically put Alexander Madison in the list because Fantasy Pros didn't obviously have it in their rankings, and I'm sure these guys would have put him in there. But anyways, they've got Jamal Williams at number 1 pickup for running back. How do you feel about that?
That makes sense. He's serviceable. He's talented overall. And DeAndre Swift is out. I mean, these guys have the job to himself and then some.
Yeah, he's actually kind of like the sneakier, Alexander Madison is kind of the loud pickup this week, but don't forget about Jamal Williams and the Taylor Swift. Yeah. Not Taylor Swift. I think DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift. I know what you mean. You're not wrong.
And
he's probably the guy.
Yeah. But it is true. I mean, you can't. I mean, the thing is the Alexander Madison. He's all the talk right now. But you can sneak in there and get Jamal Williams without. Well, I mean, at this point, I think you're kind of spending all your fab at this point. I think you're emptying your fab. I think you can empty your. Would you empty your fab for Jamal Williams? Would you?
At this point, yes. You're so far into end of the season, you don't have a choice.
Yeah. And he plays well. He always plays hard, doesn't he?
He does. He's actually a good football player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. He doesn't show up on. He kind of reminds me of like the Dante Hightower of running backs, where he kind of does everything well, but because he's kind of played behind people or wasn't really like flashy, people forget that he exists.
Yeah.
Dante Hightower is a guy that's one of the best middle linebackers in the league, but because his numbers aren't amazing, because the scheme doesn't mean for him to have good numbers. He's like in basketball. He's the guy that does the box out, not actually getting the rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal Williams is that guy. He's a great pass blocker, a decent pass catcher, a decent runner up the middle, but just because he's decent in all categories and he's not flashy about it, no major plays, no Marshawn Lynch type of stuff, people forget he exists. And it's kind of a shame because he is good.
Well, people forget first of all, he's on the Lions, which doesn't help.
Even when he was a Green Bay Packer,
Yeah, and that's something else I'd like to get into too before we close out the show too. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Packers backfield before when we close out the show. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Meantime, the rest of this list, let's just do a yes and no for the rest of this list. There's only 9. Boston Scott, definitely a yes for me.
Yes.
Dontrell Hilliard scored a touchdown. He was, he and Donta Foreman got over 100 yards, but Dontrell Hilliard got the big run and the touchdown, which...
That's a yes for me.
Yeah.
I think running backs are so bad at this point. And, we joked about this 2 weeks ago when I was on the show. When are we going to find a running back? This week, we actually have a lot of opportunities to get a running back. So Hilliard might be the guy. And I say might. Am I actively wanting to grab him? No, my teams are safe. But my teams that aren't, yes, that's a yes.
Matt Breida?
Yes.
Yeah, yes for me too. Clearly, a healthy scratch for Zach Moss really tells you everything about that. Yeah. Tevin Coleman is a no.
No. No.
Tony Jones is a no.
Dang, he's a no.
Rex Burkhead is a no.
I agree. David Johnson looked a little bit better this week.
I know Philip Lindsay. I know Philip Lindsay is a yes for you, and I like the upside. I'll say yes too.
He's not necessarily a yes for me, because in the sense of the Dolphins really don't run the ball well. But I think he hurts the player, and I'm kind of in the sense of like a crappier version of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, where they're both barely fantasy relevant at times. I feel like both these guys are going to be non-fantasy.
All right, now
kind of reminds me of like another Zach Moss, Singletary kind of situation. So we'll see how that plays out. He's not necessarily a must-add, but he's more of a just be on the lookout. The others are must. I think the first 5 guys first 4 guys are must-add.
Now they've got a guy I've never even heard of, and he plays for the Jets, and that's Austin Walter, who's number 9.
I've heard of the name just because he scored. I think he scored yesterday.
Did he? Yeah.
I think he did. Or he out-touched Ty Johnson. He out-touched him. Yeah, he did. He scored yesterday, and he had like
9 carries, 38 yards.
I think he had some pass catching too.
Mm. So, yeah, he got 1 target. But
he basically usurped Ty Johnson with Tevin Coleman. They both ended up getting most of the workload. So that's why he's on this list. And I was a little surprised because I had Ty Johnson in like 1 or 2 DFS snaps. I was like, why is he getting the target? And I found out it was because Austin Walter.
But I mean, just based on that, I'm just gonna say no.
That's a no. I don't like the running game in the Jets. I don't like the Jets right now.
No.
It's dead. This is dead in the water. This team is.
Okay, Davis, we've picked up all these players. We got to drop somebody in order to pick up somebody. So
I cheesed in mine a little bit, and because mine's not really a consideration, like as good as yours. But Cam Newton, I know somebody picked him up. I heard a lot of people saying that he was going to be fantasy relevant. Please don't do this to yourself. Stop playing Cam Newton. Stop drafting him. Stop picking him up in the middle of the season. Stop trading for him. This is not it. This is not 20s, 16, 17 again.
Is this, you're right.
Stop. Be done with it.
Is this a rage drop?
Yeah, it should be. Because, you know what Cam Newton's roster rate in Yahoo was? 67%. For a guy that missed the entire season nearly. He was rostered at 67.
What's he at now?
Yeah. He's still at 67. He's got to be.
Is he? Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm going on this rant because too many people, and the guys I help in my leagues, I help them other time, messaging me messaging me the last 2 weeks. I think we should add Cam Newton and not start Joe Burrow. We need to add Cam Newton and start Taylor Heinicke. I kept saying, stop it. If you're gonna fall for this Cam trap, I get it. He looked really cute last week with his yardage and rushing explosiveness. You're gonna fall for it. He threw less than 200 yards. Not a good thrower rate. Like, it's not there. And look what happened.
Yeah, look what happened at it was a short honeymoon.
It's not the guy. He's not your guy. He did this the same thing the year prior when he was on the Patriots, where he looked really good for 2 or 3 weeks, and then he showed you he was Cam Newton.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And that was the one thing that Bill Belichick did right away in order to clear the road for Mac Jones was we got to get this guy out of the locker room.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So just move on from Cam Newton.
Yeah, get him out of your locker room.
Yeah, stop it. Stop it across the board. No more.
And a guy who's a little bit more likable, and you feel kind of sad, but
a little bit more likable.
I'm afraid you have to drop T.Y. Hilton. Pittman wears the shoes on the Colts. It's pretty clear. I mean, T.Y. Hilton's kind of the veteran guy, the old veteran on the team. He's in his 30s. He caught a touchdown. But you're moving on from T.Y. Hilton.
I mean, another way to look at it, too, is Pittman had 10 targets last week against Tampa. I mean, they lost because they only caught 4 of them, but he still had 10, and he's not injured every other week.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta let T.Y. go. I love T.Y. Hilton. Love him to death. He was even a yards leader, reception leader at one point in time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So,
He was definitely a big fantasy relevant player. A must own at one time. That's. I guess you could say that about Cam Newton too. Was a must own back in the day, like you say, back in 2017.
You gotta let him go though. He's 32, turning 33. Or he just turned 32.
Mm-hmm.
Injury prone, neck injuries, all sorts of. We have to let him go.
Yeah.
Just let him go.
I'd rather stream I'd rather spot start a guy like Zach Pascal.
Yeah, 100% agree. Jack Doyle.
Yeah.
I'd rather play Jack Doyle at tight end, I think.
Yep.
2 flexes.
Yep.
On my flex, I played Jack Doyle. Hope for the best.
My spec ad is Kenneth Gamer. I think you should get him back on your roster just in case he starts getting more usage again. His usage dropped right off after the first injury to Miles Sanders. I don't know how Miles Sanders is feeling this weekend, and I think that's kind of the reason I put Kenneth Gainwell back in the conversation, the fantasy conversation. Again, this is a spec ad. This is if you have room, if you've got somebody who's droppable and you didn't get Alexander Madison or Jamal Williams or anybody else. You can pick up Kenneth Gainwell and hope that he gets something. So he's my spec ad.
I think that's a good one. I mean, injuries have been apparent. No team is safe from it.
Mm-hmm.
If I followed Canadian football, I'm pretty sure half their roster again. So yeah, I think that's a good ad.
Yeah.
You really have nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, especially like the running backs are at a premium at the moment, and Kenneth Gainwell, you're not doing anything bad by stashing. Who are you stashing? Just in case.
Originally, I was going to talk a little bit about Ryan Griffin, but I kind of pivoted. I'm going to go with DJ Dallas. The game hasn't started yet today for us, so we don't know if he's going to perform. But as of right now, I am pretty much disgusted from what I've seen from Alex Collins. So,
right.
DJ
Yeah,
Dallas
I agree.
He was drafted in the 4th round last season, so he's not a completely dead pick ad. They need something. They need to stop using these old veterans. They need to stop doing what the Seahawks have been doing that's causing them to lose the last 4 years. Sure, I get it. They made the playoffs. But did they look good doing it in the run game? And the answer is no. They have not looked good running the ball. For a while, Chris Carson gets injured every year. Alex Collins likes to dance behind the line of scrimmage for some reason. I think DJ Dallas is the guy. I'm hoping that he becomes the person. He's a outside ad. He's not getting talked about enough.
Yeah.
He might be relevant.
Well, with Travis Homer and Rashad Penny out there, there's really, it's kind of a no-brainer in the sense because, with those guys out. So, yeah. Pick them up now. Well, actually, you can't say now because this podcast isn't going to be heard until after the game.
Yeah.
But he'll be he'll probably, you think I'll have a big game?
The funny thing about the Washington football team is that their defense doesn't stop the things they think they stop. They don't really stop the run, nor do they really stop the pass. So I wouldn't be surprised if DJ Dallas does get his 10 to 15 carries, that it isn't terrible. The way he runs the ball is a little bit different. Speedy. It's not the consistent run up the middle power backs that the Seattle used to run with. So 5'10", short guy. So I'm hoping he gets it. I think he can. He looked pretty good last week. So we'll see what he does this week.
Especially if he catches some passes too. The passing, RB's catching passes, we like seeing that, don't we?
I don't even know if Russell Wilson ever throws to his running backs anymore.
I really think about that.
I don't think he even does.
That's another thing too. Do you know what? The last time Washington and the Seahawks played in 2014 on a Monday night, and Russell Wilson rushed for 122 yards. Just doesn't do that stuff anymore, does he?
Funny enough, he made my overrated quarterbacks during the season because he did a good amount of rushing last season that was out of character. I think he had his best rushing of all time last season. It was like his best total lines from scrimmage. It was his best yardage scrimmage was last season. And we saw how he finished at the end of it. It wasn't good.
No.
So I love Russ to death. I think he should end up on another team.
I think he'll go to the Packers.
I don't think he's gonna run 100 yards. I actually joked about when Aaron Rodgers leaves, Russ should just go there with somebody else. Yeah, I would be 100% behind you.
For one reason, he's a Badger too. They'd love him there.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
And I think they'd like him in Seattle. They'd like Rodgers in Seattle. You can imagine Rodgers with Lockett and Metcalf.
That'd be nice.
That would be.
to put in perspective for Russell, he had his best total yardage from scrimmage last season with 47-42. He's not even close to that this season.
No.
So,
Well, he had an unusual break with injury. I think that's what people like about him is Russell never gets injured except for this year.
yeah,
Missed
the
2 or 3 games.
touchdowns. He wasn't even remotely close to pacing at that this year. Not even close, even with the extra game. Really hard to beat.
And so that we've reached the end of the show. Now, I wanted to talk about getting back to the Packers here. I wanted to talk about, because we were talking about Jamal Williams, and I wanted to get back to talking about the backfield and the future of the Packers backfield with A.J. Dillon. Looks like right now, A.J. Dillon kind of looks like the bell cow to me. He's really good. I mean, he's got the size. Well, he's bigger, but I'm not saying that Aaron Jones doesn't have power. He really does. But I'm not as sold on him right now as I am with A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon's really impressing me right now.
I agree and I don't agree. I think, so A.J. Dillon as a power back, amazing. A.J. Dillon as a change of pace, amazing. If there's anything, this really reminds me of, you remember when DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry were on the same team together?
Yep.
I think Aaron Jones is going to be DeMarco Murray. A.J. Dillon's going to be Derrick Henry. Now,
yes.
To be fair, I would say
that's a good comparison there.
I have a weird mind for these things, right? Apparently. I would say that they're lesser versions, right? A.J. Dillon's obviously a lesser Derrick Henry. Aaron Jones equal to or greater than DeMarco Murray on the Titans. Maybe not prime DeMarco Murray, but Titans DeMarco. He was amazing, by the way. I think that kind of role, right, going to the outside, pass catch, is going to fit more to Jones. Now, Dillon did get 11 receptions in these last 2 games. Mm-hmm. So and Derrick Henry at times can catch a flat screen. So it's very weird what we see going on, but I don't know if Dillon takes the job head on. If they're by then, who cares? Because fantasy season's over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Dillon's someone you should not be giving up on. You should not be trying to trade away because quote unquote Aaron Jones is, like I said, this really reminds me of DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think that's a very close comparison to me. And I really think what happened in that game is that they really needed, because it was the Rams, they really needed Aaron Jones in there. But I think I get the sense that, I mean, he had a very poor fantasy day against the Rams. I think there was a snap count on him.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Jones, yeah.
Definitely. And I think I really feel bad. I really feel bad for anybody because I know that Joe Bond, our fearless leader, he was all smiles that Aaron Jones was starting, but I kind of had a little bit of reservations. I kind of thought, well, it doesn't.
I think he asked us, and I said, I'm not starting him. I'm like, no way. I'd rather start somebody else. That's a no-go. It's no-go, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think it's, unfortunately, Aaron Jones, definitely, he was definitely on a snap count in that game.
11 total touches, if you count the target he didn't get.
Yeah.
It is definitely a count.
Yeah.
He might get more usage in the receiving game, but I mean, are you going to run this running back who's known to be injured up the middle in the goal line? And the answer is no. You're running A.J. Dillon.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that, Aaron Jones won't see goal line touches because he could always run it to the outside. He could always catch a pass, but he's losing a piece of his work because his body can't hold up, which sucks, by the way. This is not me hating on Aaron Jones.
Oh, no.
He won me multiple championships in one season. But
is he on the Packers next year?
I think he is.
Okay.
They already paid him. They just paid him. So the guaranteed money is there. And there's not many teams that are willing to take, I don't think are willing to take him.
Yeah.
The only team I could see taking Aaron Jones, and this is just because I know my team, is the Dolphins.
Oh, okay.
They were trying to get him last year. I could see them trying. They just love veteran running backs for some reason. They're trying to catch another Ricky Williams lightning in a bottle situation. They can't give him up because they already paid him a guaranteed contract for at least 3 more years. I want to say at least 2 more years. I could be wrong, but I know for 1 more. There's no way they gave him guaranteed. He might be a Packer this year, and then before he gets traded. I think that's the only option. They can't cut him. This is the same debacle Melvin Gordon was a part of. You can't cut a guy that's gonna take $6 to $8 million out of your cap.
Yeah, that's true.
Cut. Yeah, and I think that's where Aaron Jones did. They just paid him. Whatever.
Okay, and that's the end of the show. And Davis, now you do the trade things. So that's all over now. So your articles are finished this year.
Yes, they're finished for the year. I did not get one last one this week, just due to the fact that we trades are basically done for most sports leagues. So, but I'll be back for best ball. So if you want to see me doing a best ball, I am currently, to update our listeners or website visitors, I'm at a 20% cover rate right now on best ball. Anything above 10 is generally pretty considered good. So I will be making 2 semis and, well, at least around 2 is semi plus season. At a 20 something, 25% rate.
All right.
So catch my articles there when they come back up and during this off season.
All right, and be sure to check my rest of season. That comes out on Thursday. And of course, the weekend blurb view, where I do a bunch of blurbs of the games of the week. I just chock it full of info for everything, as much as I can. So we'll see you next week on the Fantasy Edge. Take care.